Hello, folks. I'm Alan for today's news. I will be reading, speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. I might have news about Ukraine, the submersible submarine that went down to the Titanic, called Open Gate. More about Ukraine. A lot about Ukraine. Political Insider. And Newsmax, a great American comeback in 2023. Hunter Biden pleads guilty. NASA Voyage to Golden Asteroid. And about Russia and Ukraine. That's about all I got about sleeping and gardening, crickets. So let me get this stuff now. This one here from Nature of Home. Super simple tomato pruning tips to skyrocket your harvest. I thought this was interesting.
Whether you categorize them as a fruit or a vegetable, tomatoes are a garden staple that are most delicious when plucked fresh from the vine. These vibrant red globes require relatively low maintenance and thrive in pots, making them an ideal choice for gardeners with limited space. So, what's the key to a plentiful harvest of tomatoes? It's all about one easy gardening method: pruning. And with these straightforward tomato pruning tips, you'll find it's a breeze to do. Timing is everything. When to prune your tomato plants. Pruning is a common practice among gardeners to stimulate new growth. However, with tomato plants, timing is crucial. According to TikTok gardener at Hillside Homestead, the optimal time to prune your tomato plants is in late spring, video below. Growing seasons can fluctuate depending on your geographical location, so observing the plant itself is critical instead of waiting for a specific date on the calendar. Has the plant started to produce small yellow flowers? If so, it's time to prune. If not, wait to see these indicative buds. Pruning too early can hinder the plant's ability to photosynthesize. Pruning techniques for robust tomato plants. Before you commence pruning, it's essential to clean your pruning shears. Garden equipment can inadvertently spread diseases and pests from one plant to another, so sanitizing your tools with warm soapy water is crucial in maintaining plant health. Begin pruning from the bottom and work your way up. Remove low-hanging branches that receive the least sunlight and contribute the least to food production. Removing branches in contact with the soil can also help prevent root rot. If you notice any unhealthy branches, remove them as well. Trimming back dead or diseased branches allows the tomato plant to redirect energy toward fruit production. The sooner you remove diseased limbs, the better your chances of preserving the plant. Lastly, eliminate any suckers ASAP. Suckers are new vertical growths that emerge from the root system or branches. Although they may appear delicate, suckers can sap energy from the main plant, reducing your overall yield. Additional tips for a successful tomato harvest. Tomatoes are incredibly versatile, so there's no such thing as having too many. Here are a few additional tips to keep your tomato plants producing. Soil quality. Plant tomatoes in well-draining soil rich in nutrients. The ideal pH will be slightly acidic, somewhere in the range of 6.2 to 6.8 superscript 1. Sunlight. Ensure the plants receive at least 8 hours of full sun daily. Tomatoes thrive in heat, so if nighttime temperatures might dip below freezing, bring your tomato pots inside. Watering. Water potted tomato plants once a day in hot temperatures. Avoid overwatering, as it can cause the fruit to split and rot. Harvesting. Harvest the tomatoes when ripe. Removing the tomato fruits will encourage the plant to direct its energy reserves into new tomato production. Bonus tips for tomato pruning. Fun fact: the tomato has more genes than humans. Prune all your tomato plants. It's recommended to prune all your tomato plants, not just a select few. This helps ensure consistent growth and fruit production across all your plants. Thinning out fruit on heavily laden plants. If a tomato plant carries too much fruit, it can be beneficial to thin out the fruit. This allows the plant to direct more energy to the remaining fruit, resulting in larger, healthier tomatoes. Avoid pruning when the plant is wet. If your tomatoes are wet from rain or sprinklers, wait until the foliage is dry before pruning them. Clipping, pruning, or deadheading wet plants can spread diseases. Determinate versus indeterminate tomato plants. Determinate tomato plants don't need pruning other than removing suckers below the first flower cluster. Pruning above the first flower cluster can limit fruit production. Indeterminate tomato plants, on the other hand, can benefit from regular pruning to control their size and improve yield. Topping. To quicken the ripening process towards the end of the season, eliminate the growing tip of each primary stem approximately a month before the anticipated first fall frost. This process, called topping, can help the plant direct more energy into ripening existing fruit rather than producing new growth. Thinning slicing tomatoes. Tomato varieties that are typically used for slicing, such as Celebrity, Brandywine, and Jet Star, can yield larger fruit if the clusters are pruned down to 1 or 2 tomatoes. Simply trimming away the developing fruit and leaving only the largest 1 or 2 tomatoes in each cluster, you can focus the plant's energy on these remaining fruits. This pruning technique, known as thinning, is beneficial if your goal is to grow larger tomatoes. Keeping it clean. Just as cuts on our skin can become gateways for infections, pruning tomato plants can create open wounds that may invite disease. It's essential to maintain cleanliness during the pruning process. Make sure to wash your hands regularly using soap and water, or use a hand sanitizer as an alternative. If you're utilizing pruning shears, it's crucial to maintain their cleanliness. This can be achieved by wiping them down with rubbing alcohol or diluted bleach solution between each use. With these additional tomato pruning tips, you'll be well equipped to prune your tomato plants effectively and enjoy a bountiful harvest. Happy gardening! TikTok video. Another video. Here is another helpful video that will...
Okay, now I'm gonna play this TikTok video here for you.
Tomato leaves do not like to be wet, so by removing these you can prevent diseases. It will create airflow underneath the plant and also open up space for you to do some companion planting. Under this, I'm going to plant some basil. Next, we're going to remove the suckers. Suckers are easy to identify because they live in the armpit of the tomato plant, between the main stem and the sun leaves. Suckers will drain energy from your plant that could otherwise be directed towards growing the fruit. So, whenever you remove these, do not get rid of them. Put them in a glass of water, and just after a few short weeks, they will start to have grown these little tiny roots, and now you have 3 additional tomato plants you can add to your garden.
Yeah, I didn't know that you can grow roots on the sucker if I put them in a jar of water. I'm going to try that. And I never let my sucker get that large anyway. Let me go to the next one here. I got quite a bit of stuff. This one here, it's not an article, it's a video. It says Nevada confronts invasion of blood red cricket. I thought this was interesting.
As we squish them, they just eat, because they eat everything. Anything in their path, they'll eat, including each other. Once they start to get real squished on the road, it's almost like an oil slick. I actually, at this intersection, was coming home, and as I came around the corner, I came around a little too fast, and I about ended up in the ditch full of water. It was pretty intense. Yeah, they really are a pest to the ranchers. They eat, just destroy their crops. I've seen them eat small mammals and things. Anything gets in the way and gets bogged down becomes food.
Probably about a week and a half ago, the Mormon crickets have invaded this area of Elko, and we've kind of let them go for the past week. Just kind of let them take their course, hoping they would move on and die, but they haven't. So today, the wife, my grandson Levi, decided to go ahead and start to at least clean off the house, rid of all the poop and pee, and start to wash the house. And the only really way to start to get rid of them is to vacuum them up, sweep them up, put them in a large garbage can, and then just kind of throw them away. But we expect we'll have to do this for the next 5 or 6 days as they just keep coming and coming and coming.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. That was from the Associated Press. You stop this here. That reminded me back to '93 flood. I was living in a floodplain, and water was pushing frogs up into the mainland further and further. They was covering the highway. You couldn't drive down the highway without running over frogs. You tried not to, but couldn't help it. Anyway, let me go to the next one here. This from HuffPost. I thought this was interesting also. If you sleep on your right side, we have news for you.
Most of us have a side we prefer to sleep on. Yes, we move around in our sleep, but there's usually that one side that we continuously fall back on. And if lying on your right side is your fail-safe, there are a few factors to consider. As herbal nutrition expert Ali Ramadan, also known as @Holistic Ali, explained on TikTok, there are a handful of benefits to sleeping on the left side of your body. According to Heath Line, sleeping on your left side is thought to have the most benefits to overall health. Ramadan explained in a video that, when we sleep on the left side, the stomach and its gastric juices remain lower than the esophagus, which can help to reduce heartburn and digestive upset. It also reduces pressure on the back and is the ideal way for pregnant women to sleep, Ramadan said. Sleeping on the left side when pregnant can help with blood flow between the heart, fetus, uterus and kidneys, while taking pressure off the liver. Generally speaking, it's better for us to sleep on our left side, especially for people who snore, have acid reflux, have high blood pressure or have digestive issues. However, there are some benefits to sleeping on your right side, especially for those with heart conditions, who might find it more comfortable. But if you want to reduce your risk of back pain and get a decent night's rest, sleeping on your back could be the answer, according to one sleep expert. Just 10% of people sleep in the optimal position, according to Kiera Pritchard, a sleep expert with Each Night Mattresses. In comparison, 74% of us are side sleepers while 16% of people are stomach sleepers. Sleeping on your back is the most recommended position because the vertebrae in your back can align naturally in a neutral position without any kinks or curves, Pritchard said. Sleeping on your back may be healthier for your spine, whereas sleeping on your right side is beneficial for your heart. Stomach sleeping is the only position that is considered unhealthy as it is very stressful on your spine.
That's interesting. I mainly sleep on my left side, sometimes on my back, but usually when I first go to bed, I like to sleep on my stomach because that's bad for me. Let me know what side you sleep on. And let's listen to this video right here.
What happens when you sleep on the left side? When we sleep on the left side, the stomach and its gastric juices remain lower than the esophagus, thus reducing heartburn and digestive upsets. It also reduces pressure on the back and is the ideal way for pregnant women to sleep.
I don't know. I get gas, but I sleep on my left side. It's not helping me a whole lot. Anyway, let me know how you sleep. Let's go to the next one here. This from Zero. The other battle in Ukraine no one's talking about.
Ukrainian and Russian officials said on Thursday that Ukraine's much-anticipated counteroffensive against Russian forces has begun. There will be much talk this summer about where the fighting is concentrated, though Ukraine may well begin in one area and suddenly focus its firepower on another front to deceive Russian forces. There will be speculation about Kiev's territorial gains, much of it centered on arguments that Ukraine must break the so-called land bridge that connects Russian fighters in the eastern Donbass region with Russian forces in Crimea. But the true significance of what's about to happen is broader than that. In America and Europe, optimism has grown that Ukraine will soon post some big wins. Ukraine's government and military know expectations are high. That's why, even if it doesn't end the war, Ukraine's counteroffensive will be a game-changer, whether it succeeds or fails. To sustain the support which remains the lifeblood of its war effort and the foundation of its hopes for the future, Ukraine's true strategic objective in coming weeks will be simply to prove to its US and European backers that its soldiers can use the advanced weapons, training, and money the West has provided to win the war on Ukrainian terms. Russia's objective is to prove that it can't. If, after the counteroffensive has run its course in coming months, Kiev can convince its allies that victory is achievable, Western support will likely remain strong. If the Russians prove they can absorb Ukrainian blows and blunt the force of this advance, there will be many more critics inside Europe and the United States who say support for Ukraine is prohibitively expensive and unsustainable, helping Russia outlast Ukraine and the West to win a war of attrition. In short, we'll all closely follow coverage of what's happening on the ground in Ukraine in coming weeks. We'll study maps to assess the breakthroughs or breakdowns of its advances. We'll be watching to see how much pain and dread Russian fighters are willing and able to withstand, how much lasting damage they can inflict, and how much more dysfunction and infighting among their commanders they can tolerate. But the other big battle will be for control of the narrative. Who's winning? Who's losing? What are we learning about how long the fight may last and what it might cost? That's the other battle in Ukraine. And we should all question with care every bit of news we see and hear, because information remains among the war's most powerful weapons.
Okay, and that's all I got on that one there. All the links will be in my description box, like always. Next one here from Ukrainska Pravda. Situation on Eastern Front complicated. Russians deploy more troops. Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine.
Hanna Maliar, Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, reported that the Russians deployed more troops in Ukraine's east but the Ukrainian forces did not let them advance. Source, Maliar on Telegram. Quote, the situation in Ukraine's east is complicated at the moment. The Russians have deployed their forces there, conducting an active offensive in the Lyman and Kupiansk front, trying to seize the initiative. They are also frequently launching attacks. Intense fighting is ongoing. Our troops are acting courageously in the conditions of the prevailing Russian forces and assets, and do not let them advance. Details. She added that the Russians have not given up their plans to advance up to the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast. At the moment this is the main direction of the Russian offensive. The Russians have concentrated many units, mainly air assault troops, in Ukraine's east.
Okay, that's all I got on that one there. We'll go to the next one now. This from the Insider. The people lost in the missing Titan submersible are dead, boated in with at least 17 boats and no way out unless they're found.
The people inside the missing Titan submersible are currently sealed inside an airtight vessel. The hatch is sealed shut with 17 bolts and there's no other way out, per CBS News' David Pogue. The U.S. Coast Guard is now racing against time to find the submersible before the oxygen runs out. The people in the missing Titan submersible have been sealed in the craft with at least 17 deadbolts, and the only way to get them out is to find and open up the vessel. This is according to a November report from the CBS News correspondent David Pogue, who previously took a trip on OceanGate's Titan submersible to see the wreck of the Titanic. Now, the submersible is missing, with a crew of 5 people on board. E-crew closes the hatch, from the outside, with 17 bolts. There's no other way out, Pogue said in his November report. Pogue told the BBC on Monday that, to his knowledge, the pod had at least 7 functions that could help it resurface. But there's no solution to the submersible being trapped underwater, or a way out if water were to start leaking into the compartment, Pogue added. There's no backup, there's no escape pod, Pogue told the BBC. It's get to the surface or die. Pogue said that he was hesitant about getting into the submersible in November because the equipment on board appeared to be improvised and off the shelf. You steer this sub with an Xbox game controller, some of the ballast is abandoned construction pipes, Pogue told the BBC. The Titan submersible went missing about an hour and 45 minutes into its dive to the Titanic wreck on Sunday, per the U.S. Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is now searching for the craft, which reportedly contains around 4 days of emergency oxygen for a 5-person crew. However, this is a race against time. The crew inside the Titan may run out of oxygen by Thursday afternoon ET.
Now that thing sounded like it was put together by some kids in the backyard, run by a game controller. Some of the ballast is abandoned construction pipes. And, you know, they're charging these people $250,000 a piece to go into suicide mode. I don't know. Let's go next one here. This from CNN. Rescuers are racing the clock to search for a manned submersible lost while touring Titanic wreckage.
Crews searching for a missing submersible that lost contact while touring the wreckage of the Titanic with 5 people aboard are keeping a nervous eye on the craft's dwindling oxygen supply as they navigate choppy, remote waters in low visibility. The Coast Guard and the Royal Canadian Air Force are deploying more aircraft and vessels to aid in the search for the 21-foot vessel, which began its descent Sunday morning, and has just 4 days of emergency capability. Follow live updates. Searchers are taking the mission below sea level after scouring an area of the ocean's surface about the size of Connecticut, U.S. Coast Guard District 1 Rear Admiral John Mauger said Tuesday morning. "We now have underwater search capability on scene, and so we're going to be using that to see if we can locate the submersible in the water," he told CNN. The search zone covers a remote area some 900 miles east of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and 13,000 feet deep, Mauger said Monday afternoon. Crews are also dealing with foggy conditions and waves of 3 to 6 feet. "It is a challenge to conduct a search in that remote area," he said in a news briefing. "But we are deploying all available assets to make sure that we can locate the craft and rescue the people on board." The submersible, roughly the size of a minivan, was carrying 1 pilot and 4 mission specialists when its mothership lost contact with it about 1 hour and 45 minutes into its descent to explore the Titanic wreckage, authorities said. The vessel has between 70 and 96 hours of life support, Mauger said.
And I'm going to stop it there. There's a lot more to read on that. There's a whole lot. You can read the rest of that in my description box if you'd like to find more about it. Next one here from Newsmax. NASA to Voyage to Golden Asteroid worth Quadrillions.
The long-awaited NASA mission to explore the 140-mile-wide gold-rich asteroid named after the Greek goddess of the soul, Psyche, has been greenlit for a new launch date. Originally planned for August 2022, the journey of 280 million miles to asteroid 16 Psyche, by a spacecraft of the same name, has been given a launch window of October 5 to October 25. Spacecraft 16 Psyche will launch from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida to the Space Rock, which orbits between Mars and Jupiter. The initial trip was delayed due to institutional issues at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, which have since been resolved. The Independent Review Board is extraordinarily impressed by the accomplishments of the total JPL organization in Caltech, report from JPL read. Engagement in and leadership of the overall response process by the JPL director and senior leadership is deemed world-class. Psyche, an asteroid first discovered in 1852, is composed mostly of iron, nickel, gold, and other rare metals. Experts believe it could be worth $10,000 quadrillion, and could be the metallic core of a planetesimal or a newly forming planet. The spacecraft is set to arrive at 16 Psyche in August 2029 to begin studies on the astral goldmine so as to gain a better understanding of Earth's interior and the history of the solar system, according to the Houston Chronicle.
So there's a new gold rush going on. This one is in space. How many people is going to try to go up there and mine that gold? Let's go to the next one here. This from Newsmax. Hunter Biden agrees to plead guilty to federal charges.
President Joe Biden's son Hunter has been charged with failing to pay federal income tax and illegally possessing a weapon and has reached an agreement with the Justice Department, according to a letter filed in U.S. District Court in Delaware. As part of the agreement, made public Tuesday, Hunter Biden will plead guilty to misdemeanor tax offenses and is expected to reach an agreement with prosecutors on the felony charge of illegally possessing a firearm as a drug user. It is somewhat unusual to resolve a federal criminal case at the same time the charges are filed in court, though it is not totally unheard of. The President and First Lady love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life. We will have no further comment, the White House's Ian Sams said in a statement. The deal ends a long-running Justice Department investigation into Biden's second son, who has acknowledged struggling with addiction following the 2015 death of his brother Beau Biden. It also averts a trial that would have generated days or weeks or distracting headlines for a White House that has strenuously sought to keep its distance from the Justice Department. A person familiar with the investigation said the Justice Department would recommend probation for the tax charges, meaning Hunter Biden will not face time behind bars. But the decision to go along with any deal is up to the judge. The person was not authorized to speak publicly and spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity. Christopher Clark, a lawyer for the younger Biden, said in a statement it was his understanding the 5-year investigation had now been resolved. I know Hunter believes it is important to take responsibility for these mistakes he made during a period of turmoil and addiction in his life, Clark said. He looks forward to continuing his recovery and moving forward. The news comes as congressional Republicans pursue their own investigations into nearly every facet of Hunter Biden's business dealings, including examining foreign payments and other aspects of his finances. It also comes days after a 37-count indictment came down against former President Donald Trump for mishandling classified documents on his Florida estate, another case with even more dramatic political implications. It's no coincidence that less than a week after President Trump is arraigned, Hunter Biden is pleading guilty to a sweetheart deal with no jail time, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican Tennessee, wrote in a statement denouncing Biden Attorney General Merrick Garland. The DOJ is going for the low-hanging fruit by charging Hunter Biden with a gun felony and 2 tax misdemeanors, after years of slow-walking their investigation. For AG Garland to maintain his mantra that there is one standard of justice is pathetic. If the DOJ thinks this dismisses the $5 million alleged bribery scheme or the years of reported Biden family corruption, they are mistaken. We will not allow full accountability to fall by the wayside.
Okay, there's more to read on this. If you want to read the rest of it, I got a lot of news here. They just gave him a slap on the hand, no jail time. Of course, you and me, we'd be locked up about 10, 20 years. And all I can say, the branch does not fall far from the tree. You hear that, Joe Biden? Let's go to the next one here. This is a long article too from Newsmax. The Great American Comeback of 2023. I'm gonna just play bits and pieces of this.
It's no secret that everything we hold dear is under attack. From woke politicians in Washington and socialist sympathizers in sanctuary cities to big tech oligarchs and big pharma bureaucrats. Those in power are finding new ways to win at your expense. To make matters worse, a complicit mainstream media has not only turned a blind eye to the truth. They're actively colluding with those in power to bend the truth to fit their agenda. Mob violence is now a peaceful protest. An illegal immigrant is an undocumented worker. A concerned parent is a domestic terrorist. And an economic recession is transitioning growth. Yet no matter how hard those in power try to whitewash the truth always comes out. And while it may look and feel like America's best days are behind us, all of this is about to change. Over the next few minutes, you're going to see groundbreaking research that proves what looks like a broken system is coming to an end. And more importantly, how hardworking, Main Street Americans like you will be catapulted back into the driver's seat when it comes to your prosperity and freedom. Of course, none of what you're about to see has been mentioned by the mainstream media. Because as more of these powerful predictions from this cutting-edge research come to pass, the media blackout will only intensify as big tech kingpins and power-hungry elites pull out the stops to maintain control. The same elites that weaponized the FBI to destroy a sitting president on trumped-up charges of Russian collusion, only to then raid the president's private residence after he left office. The same elites that demanded lockdowns as the only way to survive a pandemic. All while working to defund the police as violent mobs tore down American monuments in an effort to rewrite history and destroy our cities from the inside out. Elites that continue to turn a blind eye to more than 2 million illegal immigrants crashing through our southern border. Elites that passed the Inflation Reduction Act to fund over 80,000 new IRS agents to get more money out of hardworking Americans so they can keep us in our place.
I'm gonna stop it right here. Yeah, these people that tear down these monuments trying to rewrite history, without history, we wouldn't be here where we are today. And they're so ignorant, they don't know that, Anybody that knocked down these monuments and tear up the Confederate flags are nothing but ignorance. And let me go to the next, let's see, down further here. If you want me to do one newscast on this whole article so you can just listen to it, I'll do that for you. Just let me know. Let me see what this is here.
Our team of experts has advised countless world leaders from Margaret Thatcher to Donald Trump, as our brain trust has made a career out of spotting crises before they happen and then guiding people, and even governments, through it all. Our mission at the Financial Intelligence Report is to give Main Street Americans like you the predictions and warnings needed to grow and protect wealth, no matter what happens in Washington or on Wall Street. Never before has our mission been more important than it is today. By assembling a team of the best minds in economics, finance, and investing, our brain trust looks beyond headlines and hysteria of the moment to focus on facts and opportunity that has led thousands of hardworking people just like you to financial victory. Take, for instance, the time. We announced in 1994 that oil, then at $25 a barrel, would skyrocket to over $50 a barrel in 18 months, and eventually exceed $100 a barrel. We sounded the alarm in 1996 and 1997 about a coming liquidity crisis that was being exacerbated by significant interest rate hikes from the Federal Reserve. We encouraged investors to buy when the Dow crashed to a low of 6,443 in 2009, a 54% drop from its recent high of 14,164, and ride what turned out to be an 11-year bull market. We warned about the Great Recession of 2008 a year and a half before it happened. We predicted Trump would win the 2016 election when every media outlet in the country said the exact opposite. And that's not all. Long before Joe Biden entered the White House in 2021, we published an explosive exposé that went viral. In it, we predicted. Political and civil liberty risks if Trump lost the election, as radical leftists in the government would continue spending at an ungodly pace, leading to out-of-control inflation. Risks to property and personal safety from urban crime and civil unrest. Risks of armed conflict with China, which could trigger a collapse of the US dollar and even higher inflation. Financial risks we haven't seen since the Great Depression, with the possibility of a global debt crisis, stock market wipeout, and a banking collapse.
Okay, and like I said, there's a whole lot more to read on this. If you don't want to read it, just put in comments to put a special newscast with just this on it, and that way you can just listen to it if you like. Probably be a lot easier than going through the whole thing. And let me go to the next one here. This from a political insider. Trump says, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way.
By Brett Rowland, The Center Square. Former President Donald Trump made a fresh wave of criticisms Friday of the 37-count indictment filed against him and said the indictment should be withdrawn. "They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom," Trump said in a video message posted to his social media platform Friday afternoon. "They are not coming after me, they're coming after you. I just happen to be standing in their way." Trump also said the indictment should be immediately withdrawn and he should get an apology. Trump also criticized former United States Attorney General William Barr, who has spoken out about the indictment in the classified documents. Trump said Barr was being paid to say bad things about him and said that Barr was angry because Trump fired him. "Virtually everyone is saying that the fake indictment is about election interference and should not have been brought," Trump said. "Except Bill Barr, a disgruntled former employee and very weak person." Also on Friday, Trump's attorneys in the documents case filed notice that they had gotten in touch with Litigation Security Group of the U.S. Department of Justice. The former president's attorneys had not asked the judge to dismiss the case as of Friday afternoon. U.S. District Court Judge Aileen Cannon, a Trump appointee, made the order Thursday to speed up the process that involves attorneys being cleared to get access to the classified documents. The Litigation Security Group is a team of security specialists available to be detailed to the court to serve as classified information security officers to assist in the handling and protection of classified information. These CISOs serve in a neutral capacity, providing advice and assistance to the court and the parties in the handling of classified information, according to a U.S. court's website.
Okay, same thing with this one here too. Just let me know and I'll just put special newscast with these last two things on it. That way you can just listen to it, and there's a lot on it. I got a lot of news to go through. And let me go to the next one here. This is from 1945. Disaster. A Russian kamikaze tank packed with 6 tons of TNT went boom in Ukraine.
Video footage posted on a Russian Telegram social media account shows a kamikaze attack by an old, uncrewed tank converted into a scary bomb on tracks. But the fiery results don't quite go the way its creators intended. For over 9 years, long before Putin's full-scale invasion in 2022, Russian troops have tried and failed to pry Ukrainian forces from fortified positions at Marinka. This X-town, having gone from a civilian population of around 10,000 to something approaching zero, lies astride the N-15 highway just outside Donetsk, the self-proclaimed capital of Russian separatists in this region of eastern Ukraine. As long as Ukraine's armed forces retained their foothold in Marinka's ruins, they remained in range to shell Russian bases and headquarters in the rebel capital and prevent Russian forces staging there from advancing west towards the metropolis of Zaporizhia. Similar Ukrainian redoubts at Pervomaisk and Avdiivka bottle up highways heading northwest and north from Donetsk city. Apparently frustrated by repeated, costly failures to capture Marinka, Russian forces got creative and took what the account claims to be a captured Ukrainian tank and packed it full of explosives. A trophy tank would imply a T-64, the most common type used both by Ukraine's military and Russian separatist forces.
Okay, and you can read the rest of this in my description box. It's a lot to read there. Let me go to the next one here. This from 1945. Totally crushed. Ukraine video shows Excalibur bullet destroying Russian artillery.
The war in Ukraine has clearly changed the way most military analysts see the nature of modern warfare. One specific example shines above all others: how much Russian military hardware is behind modern weapons from NATO and the West. And clearly, in the area of artillery and missiles, NATO has a clear advantage it has extended to Ukraine. Total crushed, this video showed an Excalibur destroy a Russian self-propelled howitzer. A short video posted to social media back in March ended with a literal bang, showing the destruction of a Russian 2S-3 Akatsia 152mm self-propelled howitzer, NATO designation M1973, that was targeted via a drone. Excalibur round. Image credit, Creative Commons. The unmanned aerial system, UAS, served as an airborne spotter and allowed the Ukrainian army to then strike the vehicle with an M982 Excalibur precision ordnance round. The incident occurred near Donetsk city, and it appeared that the Russian howitzer had attempted to take cover in the woods along a dirt road. However, drones paired with such smart ordnance have enabled Ukrainian forces to strike with deadly precision. Since being posted by Ukraine Weapons Tracker, at UAPOPONS, in mid-March, the clip has been shared many times.
Okay, there's a lot more to read on this if I want to read the rest of it. I'm going to my next one here now. This from Fox News. Submersible scientist fears Ocean Gate may have suffered catastrophe explosion. Deeply worrisome.
A career scientist in the submersible vehicle industry fears the worst, a catastrophic implosion, regarding the fate of the Ocean Gate, he indicated in an interview on Monday evening. The submersible with 5 people on board has been missing since Sunday while bringing tourists to explore the wreck of the Titanic. For there not to be any communications or any movement, indications are that something went critical, Steve Somliety, a Florida-based senior research scientist who has 20 years of experience in submersible design and operation, told Fox News Digital. Missing OceanGate Titanic tourist submarine search is underway. The pressure down there at 4,000 meters is pretty high. About 5,800 psi at Titanic depth. If they had any kind of leak, it would lead to an implosion and it would happen in an instant, very immediately. You wouldn't even know it happened. Somliety has worked for Bluefin Robotics and now scientific research firm Battelle. He said he was speaking for himself and not the organization. The researcher helped build the unmanned underwater vehicle used in the search for Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 that disappeared mysteriously over the Indian Ocean in 2014. Rescue options are limited, he said. The HOV Alvin Out of Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Massachusetts and the U.S. Navy's Deep Submersible Research Vehicle, DSRV, based on the West Coast, are, he believes, the only vehicles in the United States capable of reaching Titanic depth.
And there's more to read on that. I want to read the rest of it. I heard they paid $250,000 a piece to go on that. This from the Insider. More about the former passenger on Titan submersible says you have to sign a waiver that mentions death 3 times on the first page, so it's never far from your mind.
The search is on for a submersible that lost contact with the surface Sunday en route to the Titanic. A former passenger said the waiver he signed mentioned death 3 times on its first page. He said it lists one way after another that you could die on the trip. Full screen. A former passenger on the submersible that lost contact with the surface Sunday during a trip to the wreckage of the Titanic said the waiver he signed before his own trip mentioned death 3 times on its first page alone. You sign a massive waiver that lists one way after another that you could die on the trip, Mike Rice told the BBC. They mention death 3 times on page 1, so it's never far from your mind. Rice took a trip on OceanGate Expeditions' Titan submersible in 2022 and said Tuesday, "As I was getting onto the sub, that was my thought, well, this could be the end." So nobody who's in this situation was caught off guard. You all know what you are getting into. Rice is a writer and producer in New York and has worked on The Simpsons, the BBC reported. He told the BBC, "It is really exploration. It is not a vacation. It's not thrill-seeking. It's not skydiving. These are explorers and travelers who want to see something." Rice told the BBC that he had done 3 dives with the company, 1 to the Titanic and 2 off the coast of New York, and that communications were lost every time. "This is not to say this is a shoddy ship or anything, it's just, this is all new technology, and they're learning it as they go along," he said. "You have to just remember the early days of the space program." The U.S. Coast Guard said the submersible lost contact an hour and 45 minutes into its dive Sunday and had 5 people on board. A search is underway, but experts say that it will likely be complex because it's not clear where the submersible is. The U.S. Coast Guard said Monday afternoon that it had about 70 to 96 hours of oxygen left, which means oxygen will likely run out by Thursday afternoon ET. The Titanic is about 13,000 feet below sea level, which is thousands of feet deeper than the point at which any undersea rescue has ever taken place. Rice told the BBC, "If it's down at the bottom, I don't know how anyone's going to be able to access it, much less bring it back up."
Yeah, they tell you how much oxygen they got left, 70 to 96 hours, but if they panic and start breathing harder, they're going to use more oxygen up. So we'll see. That could have been exploded too. Anyway, let's go to my second from my last. This from Ukrainska Pravda. Ukrainian forces carry out successful counteroffensive operation on 3 frontline areas, said the ISW.
Ukrainian troops conducted successful counteroffensive operations on at least 3 areas of the front on June 19, according to the daily report of the Institute for the Study of War. Source, ISW report. Quote, "A Russian millblogger reported that Ukrainian troops continued attacks northwest, northeast, and southwest of Bakhmut on June 19 and claimed that Ukrainian forces advanced near Krasnopolivka, about 12 kilometers northeast of Bakhmut." Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar additionally announced that over the past week, Ukrainian troops in the Tavrisk, Zaporizhia, direction have advanced up to 7 kilometers and liberated 113 square kilometers of territory, including 8 settlements in western Donetsk and western Zaporizhia oblasts. Russian millbloggers claim that Ukrainian troops attacked south of Velika Novosilka in western Donetsk Oblast. Geolocated footage posted on June 19 confirms that Ukrainian troops liberated Piatikatki, about 25 kilometers southwest of Orikhiv in western Zaporizhia Oblast. Millbloggers also reported fighting south and southwest of Orikhiv over the course of the day on June 19.
Okay, that's how I'm going to play on that one there. Just one more short paragraph left. Let's come to the next one here. Way over my time. This from 1945, melted mortar. Ukrainian footage shows Russian city killers destroyed by artillery attack.
The Ukraine war is heating up as more and more Western and NATO weapons hit the battlefield in an effort to free Kiev from the Russian threat. And as each day passes, it seems like both sides are fighting with great intensity, to the point that the threat of the war going nuclear is never far from many analysts' minds. What could happen next? We know social media will always be covering the action. City killer destroyed by Ukraine. Back in March, a video shared by Ukraine Weapons Tracker, at UA Weapons, highlighted the destruction of a Russian 2S4 Tyolpin 240mm self-propelled heavy mortar near Donetsk in eastern Ukraine. The Russian vehicle was targeted in an artillery strike by a unit of the Ukrainian 55th Brigade. In the 2-minute-long video, the Russian vehicle could be seen in a position outside the city when it was spotted by a Ukrainian drone, which proceeded to film the artillery strike. At the end of the short clip, the 2S-4 Tyolpan appeared to be burning, and it is unlikely any of its crew survived the strike. Elite Unit. The 55th Artillery Brigade was formed in December 1992 and is now one of the oldest serving artillery units in the Ukrainian military. It is based out of Zaporizhia, and in 2018 received the honorific title Zaporozhian Sich, named for the semi-autonomous polity and proto-state of Cossacks that existed in the region between the 16th and 18th centuries.
Okay, there's more to read on this. I'm going to stop it there. A lot more to read. Anyway, I hope I got something for you interesting. And don't forget to like, subscribe. At least come back once in a while. And until next time, thanks for watching.